Welcome back to Synergy to Synastry with Christine and Renee. Today is episode 10, and we're going to be talking about numerology. But first, we want to thank our listeners who continue to share this podcast with their friends and family. We also want to thank our listeners for continuing to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And for those of you who have submitted questions and have shown interest in being read live on the air, we also want to thank you for that. Please keep those requests coming. Lastly, make sure to tap the bell icon so that you can be notified when new episodes come out as they come out. On to the episode. In today's episode, we're going to start off talking about what numerology is, and then we'll move on to how it works. We'll also teach you how to calculate your own life path number. We're going to do a quick review of mine and Renee's charts to see whether or not we're compatible. And then we'll finish up with a 2024 forecast using numerology to help you plan out the rest of your year. Renee, I'm curious, what is your experience with numerology?
I heard about it on some different podcasts I've listened to. It's been several years since I've actually engaged with the topic. Christine, why don't you give us the breakdown? What's numerology? Where did it come from? And then how do we use it?
I think when I was around 18 or 19, I was watching a talk show, and this numerologist, Glynis McCants, was on, and I bought all of her books and studied everything there was to know about numerology, and then I forgot about it. And now that we started doing this podcast and I started reading Glynis's books again, we'll tag her in the show notes so you can go and buy her books if you want. So numerology is the science of divining information about life through numbers. Astrology does this via the placement of the stars in the sky. Numerology does this through numbers. I don't know if you remember the Greek mathematician Pythagoras from math class. For anyone who doesn't, the Pythagorean theorem was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Around 2,500 years ago, he created the Pythagorean number system, which influenced the creation of numerology. He was the first person that we know of who realized that numbers are the foundation of the universe and believed that everything that was seen and unseen could be reduced to numbers. His theory was that the universe was created from vibrating energy, which we now know to be wavelengths or electromagnetic waves, and that each number vibrated a certain energy.
Can you distinguish the difference between angel numbers and the practice of numerology?
They kind of stem from the same belief in that each number has a different vibration that alludes to a different, let's say, characteristic or idea about something. Angel numbers tend to be repeating numbers that kind of are like catch our attention. Numerology is a science that breaks down words or dates into a reduced singular number, and that singular number has a vibration.
So now let's get into how to actually apply numerology and to calculate those numbers.
For the sake of time for today, we're just going to focus on your life path number, which is similar to your sun sign in astrology or your type in human design. This is going to be the most important number in your chart, and it provides color around the path in life where you're going to feel most aligned. That being said, how do you calculate your life path number? In order to do that, you're going to have to add up each number of your birth date one by one. So we're going to use good old Harry Potter as an example. His birthday was July 31st, 1980. So we're going to add 7 plus 3 plus 1, that's July 31st, plus 1 plus 9 plus 8 plus 0, that's 1980. When you add that all together, you're going to get 29, and you're going to continue adding those numbers and reducing them until you're left with a single digit. So 2 plus 9 is 11, and then further reduced, 1 plus 1 is 2.
All right, grab your calculator and pause the episode if you need to. It's time to calculate your life path number. So you can listen along to the descriptions and see if you're aligned. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you have your numbers ready. Christine, let's talk about it. What does each life path number mean?
Let's talk about it. Each number can be grouped into natural match numbers or numbers that click effortlessly. 1, 5s, and 7s, they are known as the mind numbers because they're always thinking. 3, 6s, and 9s are the next set of natural matches, and they are the creatives. They're always creating. Twos, fours, and eights are business numbers. They're always taking care of business in some way. Twos are in the business of love. Fours are in the business of security and foundations. And eights are in the business of financial freedom. Ones are known as the leader. They are self motivated, independent hard workers. They have a strong desire to be the best, and they often are, even if they don't believe in themselves. They have a strong need for individuality, and they can inspire others just by watching them work towards their goals. They do have trouble asking for help because they want to do things their way. And a good piece of advice for ones is to try to listen to others from time to time. These vibrations need to be in charge, either managing part of a business or running a business. They make great entrepreneurs because they're self motivated. But interestingly enough, they also have healing hands. So they are good for massage therapy or acupuncture. When you're a one and you're choosing a career, the big ask is, what have I always wanted to be? And then go out and do it. Great activities for a one are watching competitive shows where someone's winning on TV, like I just watched Amazing Race or Survivor. Dancing and yoga can also help to clear the mind for ones.
There's almost a polarity in it of the leader, somebody who's really competitive, but then on the other side, it's you could be healing or you should make sure you're healing yourself.
I hadn't put that together. What I had been looking at the one in terms of duality was that there's a light side and a dark side. They think their way is the right way and they won't listen to someone else's advice. They just want to do it their
Mm.
way.
As we remember from the top, number 2 is our guy Harry.
Love Cousin Harry. If anybody is following Kiara Lewis on social media, you and you're into Harry Potter, you have to watch her reread these books. Oh, actually, she reads them for the first time. So twos are the mediator. They tend to seek harmony in life, and they're here to love others and be loved in return. They're usually easygoing, affectionate. They both need and give lots of attention. However, when they get angry, it's like a volcanic eruption. They don't like conflict and they try to avoid it. They're happy to play a supporting role and don't need to be the lead. Because they're so loving, boundaries are really important for a two. And there's a reminder that you don't have to fix everyone's problems. Offer support where you can, but don't overextend yourself. Twos may have psychic abilities, and because of that, they tend to make great practitioners in all modalities, from astrology to tarot reading to reading tea leaves. They can be great social workers and counselors. And music tends to be very soothing for the twos.
There's a couple pieces in there I do actually think relate to Harry Potter. Obviously, he cannot speak to it himself. In his childhood, aka the books, he probably was overextending at some points and meddling when he shouldn't have been. And I think in his later years, post the Harry Potter series, he was likely more than happy to not take the lead, to be that supporting
Mhm.
character because he had so much of that burden placed on him and so much attention placed on him when he was a kid to then want to sit back and want to have a life that's harmonious with Ginny and his children. So I think there's a little bit of connection there, but maybe we should talk to Daniel Radcliffe and see if he has any insight.
Oh my God, I have a photo with Daniel Radcliffe. So we're pretty much friends. I should call him.
When did you get a picture? Was it like a meet and greet?
So I saw him in a play in the city and I waited outside to meet him. And I did. And he is lovely. Like all the nice things people say about him are true. He was so patient with everyone. He said hello to everyone. Threes are known as the communicator. They are creative, loyal, romantic, love to connect with people. And I'm thinking of a friend that I have who is a three, and she tells the most entertaining stories of all time. When threes are not expressing themselves, they can create a little bit of drama. They love having people in their life and often see their relationships through rose colored glasses. So, for threes, it's important to remember to look for the middle ground and watch out for extreme highs and lows and walk away from relationships when they're unbalanced. Threes would be really great at motivational speaking, acting, modeling, performing in general. They also make great salespeople and they shine in the world of fashion and beauty. They're very quick thinkers. Anything that allows threes to be creative and use their natural gifts is great for threes.
In astrology, the third house represents communication. And in the Enneagram system, if you're a type 3, they tend to be sales promoters. So the fact that there's such an overlap and consistency with three different systems, even if they were set up by people over hundreds of years, thousands of years, that somehow either this was intentional, that they borrowed some of these traits, or it was unintentional and they still landed in the same spot.
Fours are known as the teacher. They are truth seekers. They're very cerebral, intelligent. They're great at puzzles or problem solving. They love positive affirmations and tend to be afraid of criticism. So they can have a really great idea in their head, but they'll keep it to themselves because they're scared that somebody's going to criticize it. They enjoy their home, security, hiking, camping, being outdoors. They love a good plan and they like to do things in their own time. They do not like to be rushed. Fours can also be selective about their friend groups. So if you're friends with a four, count yourself lucky. For fours, make sure to find a healthy outlet for your mind. You can make to-do lists, you can journal. There's a lot going on in that brain of yours, and getting it out on paper helps. Also, get out in nature. It can be very calming. Aside from being a teacher, fours tend to have a desire to protect. A career as a frontline worker, police, firefighter. They are also really good at construction. I always think of that four as a foundation. So architecture, landscaping.
Again, another connection to astrology is that the fourth house represents home.
I'm curious if you're going to have any astrological associations for five. Fives are the adventurer. They love freedom, fun, variety, passion. They do not like being bored. They take pride in how they dress. They're very sensual in that they enjoy the experience of the five senses, like how things taste, how they feel, etc. They're natural detectives and they're natural givers. It's important that they live their life in a way that nurtures their desire for freedom and adventure, even if that's just getting lost in a good book. People with a five tend to be rock stars, risk takers, and are also very compassionate. Careers in travel, from pilot to tour guide, are a natural fit. So, anywhere in the pipeline of working in travel. They're entrepreneurial and they're entertaining. So, wedding planning could be a good fit as well. They have a great imagination, and that makes them good writers. Activities for the adventurer that are regenerative are travel and exploring life.
As far as this mapping on to astrology, the fifth house represents creativity. It can also reflect dating, so some of the passion or connection with other people. But all that adventure stuff, that's more ninth house. As far as signs go, there's a lot of Sagittarius.
I was thinking either Sagittarius or Leo energy.
This is definitely a bit of a fusion, so it's not a 1-to-1, it's a 2-to-1 type of situation.
Next up, we have sixes, and sixes are the nurturer. They tend to be natural parents, and pet parents count. Caregivers, spouses, creatives. They're magnetic people, and they're very concerned with making sure that the future is taken care of. Their thoughts are powerful, and they're capable of manifesting that way. They have a very good sense of smell. They're loyal, they're trustworthy, but they also don't take criticism very well. They feel the best way to get the job done is to do it themselves. So the reminder for sixes is to step back and trust that others can get their part of the job done. And it's also a way for you not to overwork yourself. They would be great at managing their own company. They do find it hard to work for others. Their home is important, so interior decorating would be a great fit, or a real estate agent. They'd also be great as a guidance counselor or an advisor because of that natural caregiving instinct that they have. And also, cosmetology, acting, or a musical career would be great for them. So, activities that help a nurturer, any sort of art, music, poetry. I kind of see a nurturer at home painting in their perfectly curated den, or listening to music, or writing their own poetry, but all of this being done at home in like a beautiful space that they've created. Number seven, we're up to Renee. Sevens are known as the faith seeker. So they're here to learn to have faith. And it's not always organized religion, it's more of a spiritual thing. So without a spiritual base, sevens may try to escape. That's any form of escapism. They also seem alien like sometimes, like they're here with us, but they're almost like observing us. Sevens tend to have psychic abilities and need alone time to recharge, which we know Renee is psychic. They love anything related to water, so that's lakes, rivers, oceans, mountains, snow, flowers. They really enjoy the simple things, even their pets. They can be overthinkers, which makes them good problem solvers. They're going to need meditation, alone time, nature to kind of resolve that overthinking or the tizzy that overthinking can send you into. Older sevens tend to have a little bit of Peter Pan syndrome. They're always like a little bit of a kid at heart. Sevens tend to make good directors, philosophers, writers, computer experts, scientists, anything in really technical work. They'd be great psychologists or psychiatrists. Obviously, anything within the psychic modalities, astrology, tarot, numerology. They make great public speakers. Also, anything within the study of nature, an oceanographer, a biologist.
This absolutely screams ninth house Pisces, which is what I have, because all of the water imagery, the psychic abilities, the philosophy element, growth, learning, and expansion, and related to the mind and spiritual and or dream space, that's all Pisces and ninth house combined. And I have a stellium there, which means I have three or more, in my case, three planets that are in that sign, which makes it especially potent for me. Taking astrology out of it, I went to school and got my bachelor's in psychology. And I originally had the intention of becoming a therapist and then changed my mind part of the way through and switched over to data. So then I worked on the quote unquote technical side, the data side, but always have had the eye to how people work, social systems, constructs. I like reading and learning and expanding, and I've been told I'm a good public speaker. The faith piece, I view that as what we discussed in the last episode. I was brought up in an organized religion to a degree, didn't resonate with me, but I was always drawn to the spiritual. Like we learned about Buddhism in school and then yoga, like we talked about a few episodes back. So I've always been around the perimeter. And then, of course, astrology and other forms of divination and mediumship and psychics. I've had an interest in that for most of my life anyway. And yes, you could also say here there's a sense of duality, like I talked about for number one. There's spirituality or religion, there's the woo, and then there's science. And so there's both of those pairings in there, which I have very much experienced in my life. There doesn't have to be a one or the other because it's all about the larger expansion. Needing alone time and needing to meditate or connecting with nature to ground. Because you did say at the top in the groupings that a seven was in the group for the mind energy. 1,000,000,000%. I'm always swirling up in my noggin. On one hand, I want to think about all the things that are big picture and the dreams and messages and all this other stuff. But then I also have to make sure I am grounding in data and grounding in nature too.
I also didn't know you were going to be a psychologist, so that's amazing. That really fits in. All right, eights. Eights are known as the executive. Eights are here to establish financial stability. They like the freedom that comes with it. It's not so much about having millions of dollars, but the freedom that comes with being financially stable. They tend to like the finer things in life, and they can be workaholics. Eights should remember that you are allowed to change your mind. You're not stuck in one decision forever, and you will be okay too. So if you start a project and halfway through it, you're like, I don't think this is going to work, you don't have to commit to it. Eights can be brutally honest. So make sure to read the room before sharing. Not everybody can handle your brutal honesty. Though I, as a Virgo, truly enjoy people who are brutally honest. So you can do that with me. Learn to laugh at life and not take things too seriously. You can also be a late bloomer, so remember it's never too late to do that thing that you wanted to do. In terms of career, big business, executives, politician, finance, think banker, trader, analyst, accountant, office manager, engineer, even a corporate lawyer or a judge would be really great positions for an eight. Eights could also be great at wedding planning, interior design, running a nonprofit, or modeling or acting because they tend to be good looking. So, to all you eights out there, go give yourself a wink in the mirror. You should watch a funny movie or a show, or make sure to spend time with amusing people and listen to music. Do things that make you happy and help you relax. I don't want to say you're so serious all the time, but the things that you may feel inclined towards tend to be serious matters. So going polar opposite and watching funny TV or going to a comedy show.
Reading the description, I thought to myself, if this is not my sister, I don't know which one is. Did the quick math, she's an 8. So I hope that you were listening to that description.
Shut up. That's
And yeah,
amazing.
I think that there's a sense of you're working hard, but you need to play hard too. You need to create that sense of balance. I'm sure if you went through all of these with a fine tooth comb, you can easily swing one way or the other way, but you want to do a little bit of both to center. Christine, this one's yours.
Yes, I'm a nine life path number. Nines are known as the humanitarian. With a strong spiritual base, nines can be a light in this world, and that makes me think of light worker. Nines are the strongest of the vibrations because it contains all of the others. So if you're a four, you contain the vibrations of one, two, and three. It sort of builds upon itself. Nines have a strong desire to follow what they believe in and pursue that thing with ambition and drive. They do have a true regard for humanity, so their goals tend to be to serve others. Nines do need to remember not to be so hard on themselves when something doesn't work out. We have to forgive ourselves for being human. Humans are messy. Answers usually arrive for us when we engage our spiritual side or listen to our voice. So, if there's a question we've been stewing on or a situation we've been stuck on, it usually helps to get quiet and hear what our inner voice has to say. We also need to remember to ask for what we need because people can't read our minds. I feel like from the outside, when people look at a nine, they seem to think we sort of have it all together and we don't need help. So it's really important for us to ask for that. If there's a big thing on your mind and you're not sure if you can do it, try it anyway, because more likely than not, you're going to be able to accomplish it. Our vibration can give off an intimidating energy, so it's important to remember that putting others at ease can go a long way. I've experienced this, and two of my best friends are also nines, and I know they've experienced this where people just tend to be intimidated by us, and it's not because of anything we're particularly doing. As nines, we compete with ourselves, we don't compete with other people, but other people may see that as us having an air about us or a chip on our shoulder. Just reach out, give a little compliment, say hello, give a smile. That may be all you really need to break the tension. In terms of careers for nines, teachers, counselors, therapists, doctors, nurses, social workers. Remember, nine is a creative number. Artists, writers, musicians, actors, those tend to be great careers as well. We can make a positive difference in the world, which is what we're here to do. For nines, being alone with our thoughts so we can hear our inner voice or intuition is one of the most important things that we can do. So I took a look at mine and Renee's numerological chart, and I've dived into six numbers that give more of an idea about who a person is via the lens of numerology. And then at the end, we'll find out whether or not Renee and I are actually compatible as friends. The soul number, how you feel inside. So Renee is a six and I am an eight, and those numbers are compatible. A six soul number feels fulfilled when they have children, which I know is not the stage in life that you are at yet. Also, when running their own company or having a lot of responsibility, when people look up to them or acknowledge them for their hard work, whenever you're needed and appreciated in life. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah.
100%.
If anybody knows about the 5 love languages, words of affirmation is not in the top for me. It's middle to low in the pack. But recognition for doing good work and for helping other people has that nurturer side.
My soul number is an eight, and I tend to feel fulfilled when I have financial freedom or job security or a really nice home. I like to be in charge. I like to speak the truth and see like justice in certain situations, which is totally true for me. I'm a nine, which is the humanitarian, And I'm leaning more into that as my life path number. But there's something that's not settled yet because right now I don't have the financial stability or the job security that I once had because I'm starting my own business. The next number that I looked into were our personality numbers, and that's basically how people perceive you. Both Renee and I are fours, which means we're a natural match.
Means we're twins.
Twinsies in the personality department. Fours tend to wear glasses, and we both wear glasses. So it's
No
not
way.
our life path number, but it is in our chart. So personality number 4 are people who appear to be serious, sensitive, intelligent. We're very open to learning. People can count on us. We just enjoy educating people and we want to help them. Say you're typing something up and there's a typo, and we're like, oh, you misspelled that. It's not because we're trying to say that we're better than you. We just want to let you know you misspelled something and you may want to change the spelling of it.
I always do that. I'll look at a pamphlet or if there's a menu at a restaurant and I immediately go, oh, they have a typo on page 2. That's a bummer.
The next number I looked up was it's called power name, defined as the strength of your name, but it kind of lets someone know who you are. A Pythagorean number system assigns a number to each letter. Take someone's name, reduce it to numbers, do that whole addition thing we did with the life path number, and boil it down to one number. I used our first and last names because that's what we typically go by. Renee, you're a 1. You tend to set high standards for yourself and you expect excellence. Power name number 1 also works hard and plays hard.
I was comparing type 1 to Aries. I'm an Aries sun. In the Enneagram system, I'm definitely a type 1. The traits make sense. Looking for excellence, and especially when you overlap that with trying to find typos.
Oh, God, yeah. The power name number 3. So this, I don't know if I would agree with this for myself, but it appears to be like the ultimate showman. We need to speak our minds and tell others what we think and how we feel, which that I can 100% relate to. I have heard that I am good when I am, talking in front of a large audience, but I don't think it's something I would ever sign up for. I actually have anxiety thinking about it now. The next number I looked into is your birthday, which is really simple to calculate, taking your date of birth and reducing it down to one number. So I was born on the 2nd, so that's easy. I have a birthday number of 2, and Renee's is 26. So you break that down, 2 plus 6 is 8. So the birthday number is how others see you. People with a birthday number of 2 tend to have psychic gifts. I know you guys were wondering when that was going to come up in our charts. This is where it came up for me. We tend to be people who can see both sides of every argument, and we tend to work well in groups and we're happy to follow along. People with a birthday of 2 typically don't crave the spotlight, but they can be inspirational to others, which I feel like fits in with my power name of 3, where you would be great in front of an audience.
It's not your drive or motivation to do so.
People with a birthday number of 8, the world sees you as somebody who desires a quality of life. So you have a very good work ethic. You're willing to work hard. You like nice things. You can be well organized, but we know you are well organized. You're proud of the family and the home that you've created. People with a birthday number of 8 can be accident prone.
I bump into things all the time. All the time. I'm just minding my own business. All of a sudden, arm goes flying out, whacks a table. It's sometimes I feel like I can't control my limbs, or I'm just like suddenly randomly unstable on my feet and I bump my hip into something and I get bruises. I inherited the bruise gene from my mom, so it doesn't take that much to have that happen.
In terms of our life path numbers, I'm a 9 life path. Renee is a 7 life path, which the 7 also has psychic gifts. So that's where Renee's first show up in her chart as well. This is the first number in our composite charts that don't seem to get along. When both numbers are spiritual, they tend to enjoy each other's company. And we met via this, container of learning more about our spirituality and Renee having faith and trusting that there is something bigger, and me just naturally being interested in this stuff. And the last number I looked at for both of us was an attitude number, which speaks to our general attitudes towards life. And Renee and I are both twos. We're both twos that are reduced down from an 11. So 11 is a master number. I'm not going to get into it here, but it's an important number. Those with an attitude number of 2 tend to be easygoing. They also tend to be an observer. We have a romantic streak, and love is important to us. We tend to be very organized and career focused and everything that we need to tick off on our boxes.
You watch rom-coms or you talk about or your friends are dating or getting married. It's in the periphery and you see it and you kind of want that, but most of the time in my day-to-day, I just forget it exists because I'm focused on so much else. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I should probably be looking into that. And then maybe it pans out, maybe it doesn't pan out, currently not panning out.
Mhm. The other really cool thing about it too is, again, this is where psychic abilities tend to show up. We tend to experience deja vu. We tend to have predictive dreams. We tend to be very in touch with our intuition and the metaphysical side of life. And we have compassion for people and we are interested in other people's stories. Typically, when you have multiple challenge numbers in a chart, it means that, the two people aren't compatible. But since we have one challenge number, and since that challenge is dependent upon both of us being on the positive side of our life path numbers, which we're in right now, I would look at this chart and I would say we're compatible. And I think you listeners at home wouldn't even need to look at a chart to say that we are compatible and we are good friends. I really would direct you to Glynis's books because some of the numbers to calculate, like the soul and the personality number, you have to use the Pythagorean number system to kind of break down each letter into a number. There's a lot more calculations involved than the birthday or the life path number. If you cannot wait to order a book and have it arrive, you can send an email to synergytosynastry@gmail.com, and we are happy to help you with starting to generate your numerology chart. Renee is going to give you a numerology forecast for this year, 2024.
By the time you hear this, we're going to be halfway through the year. So you can use this to look back retroactively, think about how this is connected and resonated with you, and also looking forward. 2024 is an 8 year. Each year for the collective does its own math. 2 plus 2 plus 4 is 8. And that represents abundance, authority, and empowerment. What we're trying to do is, quote, claiming what's ours and showing everyone else why we belong at the top of the heap. It may sometimes ask us to engage in situations that seem daunting or make us uncomfortable, but the purpose of these challenging moments is to teach us that we are already in possession of the power necessary to succeed. Unquote. Ultimately, you're working towards the abundance, authority, and empowerment, but that means that you're grappling with the opposite side. You're grappling with a scarcity mindset and imposter syndrome. Other objectives to address are looking at ways that we give away our power, trying to pinpoint those and make some adjustments. Observing what our values are in life. These are internal values, not I want a car, I want a house, not anything that is external to you. It's your values, how you want to live and operate in the world. And also, recognizing and enjoying the fruits of your labor. This relates to the empowerment piece. You know what? I do a good job. I deserve a seat at the table, not from a sense of entitlement. Taking your ego out and looking inward and recognizing your value and your worth as a person. You can also narrow in and layer on top your personal year forecast. How you do this is adding up each of the digits the same as you do for your life path, but rather than it being your birth year, so for Harry Potter it was 1980, if we were looking at his 2024 year, you would do July 31st, 2024. So it's the date of your birthday within this calendar year. I added these up for Christine and I, and we actually both have the same number. We're both ones. It goes in order. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, and keep cycling and cycling. That means 2023 for both of us was a 9, which is the end of the cycle. We should be focusing on as personal year ones is creating systems and structures to set ourselves up for success. We're right back at the beginning and we want to say, what's our direction? Where should I be going? And put those systems in place.
I know we have so many synchronicities in our lives. I didn't think it happened here in numerology.
We're going to include a link. So once you've figured out what your personal year is, you can go read about your 2024 forecast.
Boy, this episode escalated quickly. We're now up to the What Have We Learned This Week segment. Mine is quite simple and very much related to the research I did for this show, which is that Y is sometimes a vowel. The Pythagorean theorem states that a Y is a vowel when it's between two consonants. For example, in the name Joyce, it's not a vowel, while in Gwyneth it is. But anyway, I'm glad I researched this so I could work through this childhood memory. In the first grade, I remember having an argument with either my teacher or the kids in the class that Y is sometimes a vowel. And, I had to have a chat with my parents and the teacher to sort of ignore that rule for the time being. A 4 personality number coming through that I needed to correct everyone on the proper usage of the letter Y.
What I learned this week came from an astrological chart reading, which focused heavily on my Mars and Jupiter placements. Historically, I haven't paid too much attention to them. I have Mars in Pisces and Jupiter in Scorpio, and they're in a trine to each other. And it's about expanding my self concept. And hopefully, the listeners are doing this as well. The role and mission of this podcast is to just expose people to different topics, change some of those mental frameworks, understand that there's other systems that people are using around the world throughout history, throughout time, and do a little bit of that expansion. So I can support my growth and my purpose by tapping into creativity and by tapping into learning. More specifically, my Mars and Pisces can represent having a filter issue. So either saying too much or not saying enough. Like what I've done with my psychic abilities, not talking about it, not sharing it. Also, I can be someone who is refreshingly thought provoking for others. I bring up ideas and perspectives they had not considered. And I would say from experience that that is true. The trine with Jupiter, which is a favorable aspect, can represent enthusiasm about creative and spiritual expansion. Jupiter is all about growth. Those fuel my drive to make the world a better place through thinking, talking, and creating. If you haven't up until now actively engaged with any of the topics or systems that we've discussed in this podcast, maybe dabble, maybe get a reading from someone. One, you could get a psychic reading from either or both of us. Christine's dabbling in numerology. I'm dabbling in astrology, so we can both provide some insight there. Go see a Reiki practitioner. There's a lot that you can do that can help you to expand. Even as someone who has been in this space for several years, I can still keep learning new things. I just wanted to quickly read off the other few things I wrote down. I had Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio in my birth chart. I have to embrace what I find fun, even if it's not the case for other people. So I don't just surf the internet to find what's everyone else into. If it's fun for me to listen to podcasts ad nauseum because I like learning, and someone else might poo poo that and say, that's too much. Isn't your brain tired? Well, for me, if I actually unwind and expand while doing that, then maybe that is my version of fun, and that's okay. So it's about not conforming to other people's standards, which I'm about.
We are now going to provide our channeled messages for the collective. Renee, what did you see?
Immediately, I got the term alkaline. It's a sciencey term, so I looked at the definition. This relates to being soluble in water. And then suddenly I started seeing an entire story unfold, and it goes as follows. The listener has a fishing rod. They're reeling, they're reeling, they're reeling. The rod is starting to bend. And they're worried that the rod is going to snap. And suddenly it just completely stops. And they look in the water and there's a dolphin sitting there, just bobbing up and down in the water, smiling. She's playful, she's coy, and she ate the fish. And you're not upset about it. You're actually filled with wonder. And the inspired action is to embrace the unexpected because you might just be in store for a pleasant surprise.
My whole reading screen was like lit up with like a charge of electricity all around the border. And then a 1920s factory. There's a man there who's rolled up the sleeves of his shirt and like he's covered in like grease and he's trying to move this huge lever to get the machine working. Like it's on, the electricity's working. He's like, all right, let me take a step outside and take a break. It's a beautiful day. And he looks down and he's like, I'm disgusting. I'm so gross. And he has the choice to either go back to work and continue fighting with this lever that's just not moving or go home and take a shower. He goes home, he takes a shower, and he's like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Whether or not he stayed in the factory or went and took a shower, the machine was not going to work that day. If I watch him continue to stay in this factory and fight with this lever, he just gets more and more dirty. He gets more and more tired. He's more likely to hurt himself. His muscles are exhausted. He's no use the next day because he's been fighting with something that we know is not going to change shape. The inspired action that I was getting was to ask yourself when you do something, how is this going to make me feel? The mantra that I was hearing was breathe and let go. It's okay to take a break.
Yours is, this thing isn't working. And mine was, oh man, I thought I had this gigantic fish and this was going to be awesome. And now I don't. And it was the perspective shift. It's nice if you catch a fish, but you didn't really need it. You were doing it as an activity. And even with a job, okay, well, if something comes up and you can't get this machine to work, just we've all had that, in modern time or in other settings. Your computer's not working, you're having a technical issue. Just because it's not working right now, you can always try again. So it's up to the individual to decide what they want to do, but they don't have to force an outcome.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Thanks for listening.
If you'd like to learn more, the resources we used to prepare for this episode are listed in the show notes.
You can reach me, Christine, at Channeled by Christine with one L on Instagram.
And you can reach me, Renee, at _read by Renee, or connect with both of us via email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com.
Keep your spirit curious and your aura sparkling.
We'll see you when the stars next align.
Maybe like a month ago, I wanted a bagel. And I was like, oh, let me do the Too Good to Go apps. They gave me 16 bagels. I ended up eating 8 bagels in 5 days.
Is that why you said an abundance of bagels in a previous episode? Well, regardless, it's a good solution to help with food waste, but important to state that you do not need to force yourself to eat all of it.
Yeah, no, we're not condoning that.
But it's convenient to get a lot of food on the cheap if you're going to a gathering. I just realized we're talking about food again.
It's your fault. You're having a snack.